Hello and welcome to my channel, your go-to source for the latest in USA Gossip 24. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for all the updates. Let's dive right in.
There may only be 3 coaches on The Voice, Battle of Champions, but given how often John Legend, Adam Levine and Kelly Clarkson talk about Blake Shelton, you'd be forgiven for picturing him in the 4th red chair. Shelton left The Voice after serving as a coach for the first 23 seasons of the show, and became the de facto guy for most country artists. He also won more than any coach in The Voice history, so it's easy to understand why his legacy looms large. For Levine, access to Shelton is a major perk for artists considering joining Team Adam. Like 25-year-old J.W. Griffin from Moultrie, Georgia, who impressed the coaches with his performance of Long-Haired Country Boy by the Charlie Daniels Band, and Levine knew he'd have to fight hard to get Griffin to choose him over Clarkson, the countryest coach of the season. So he brought out the proverbial big guns. "If you pick me, you're gonna have a co-coach in Blake Shelton, 'cause he's gonna love you," Levine told the singer, explaining, "I'm gonna pester him on a daily basis." Levine continued to use his close relationship with Shelton to press Griffin on his potential on Team Adam, recalling of the Shelton-Levine friendship, "We became super tight, we came from different places, and that was explosive." As for Levine's characterization of his, let's face it, longtime competition with Shelton, Legend slyly countered, "That's how you interpret your rivalry with Blake Shelton? That's interesting." Why the breadman J.W. Griffin chose Team Kelly. Now living in Tennessee, Griffin works as a bread delivery driver, bringing loaves to grocery stores in his truck. As he aptly put it, delivering the dough is a good way to make some. However, he admitted that his passion isn't delivering bread, it's making music. He also plays the guitar, and added that he loves older country because it has such a distinct sound. Griffin was one of the lucky recipients of the triple turn competition, meaning all 3 coaches wanted him for their team. Immediately, Levine knew he would be losing the artist to Clarkson. "My heart is already broke," Levine said, adding, "You have one of my favorite voices, this is gonna be so heartbreaking when I don't win." Advising the singer not to listen to Levine's reverse psychology, Clarkson admitted that she could only get Griffin because Shelton isn't around. "I'm really so happy Blake Shelton isn't here right now," she joked, telling Griffin, "You're such a great storyteller." "There's no country coaches this season, but they're all pretty iconic," Griffin mused before taking the stage. But as predicted, Griffin went with Team Kelly, no Shelton endorsement needed. Adam Levine has never been one to shy away from a little friendly chaos, especially when it comes to his long-running, often hilarious rivalry with Blake Shelton. And when he returned to the stage of The Voice, fans quickly realized that the dynamic between the 2 coaches hadn't lost a single ounce of its spark. If anything, it had evolved into something sharper, more strategic, and undeniably more explosive. What many viewers initially saw as playful banter over the years was, in reality, a deeply ingrained competitive rhythm, one that Adam Levine has now mastered to near perfection. His ability to weaponize humor, history, and even past arguments with Shelton became a defining feature of his coaching style during his return. And in a show where the smallest edge can mean the difference between winning and losing, Levine made sure to use every tool at his disposal. A rivalry built on years of chemistry. To understand how Levine leveraged his history with Shelton, it's important to look back at how their relationship developed. From the very first seasons of The Voice, the 2 coaches established themselves as polar opposites. Levine, the polished frontman of Maroon 5, brought a sleek, pop-driven sensibility to the show. Shelton, on the other hand, leaned into his country roots and laid-back charm. This contrast became the foundation of one of television's most entertaining coach rivalries. Whether they were fighting over contestants, mocking each other's song choices, or trading sarcastic jabs, Levine and Shelton created a dynamic that felt authentic and unscripted. It wasn't just about winning, it was about outwitting each other in real time. Over the years, their exchanges became legendary. Shelton would often poke fun at Levine's fashion choices or his Los Angeles lifestyle, while Levine would counter with witty remarks about Shelton's country persona. The audience loved it, and the contestants found themselves caught in the middle of a rivalry that was as strategic as it was entertaining. Turning history into strategy. When Levine returned, he didn't just bring nostalgia with him, he brought a game plan. He understood that his history with Shelton could be used as a powerful recruiting tool during the blind auditions and beyond. Instead of simply pitching himself as a coach, Levine frequently referenced his past victories and interactions with Shelton. He would remind contestants of moments where he had outmaneuvered Shelton, subtly reinforcing the idea that choosing Team Adam meant choosing a proven competitor. But what made this approach truly effective was how Levine blended humor with strategy. He didn't come across as arrogant or overly aggressive. Instead, he leaned into the familiarity of his rivalry with Shelton, making contestants feel like they were joining an ongoing story, one that they could actively shape. For example, Levine often teased Shelton about losing key artists in previous seasons, turning those moments into light-hearted anecdotes that highlighted his own success. It was a clever way of building credibility without sounding overly self-promotional. Psychological edge in the chair turn. One of the most intense aspects of The Voice is the moment when multiple coaches turn their chairs for the same contestant. This is where Levine's history with Shelton became especially valuable. Levine knew exactly how Shelton would react in certain situations, what arguments he would make, what emotional appeals he would use, and even what jokes he might crack. This allowed Levine to anticipate and counter Shelton's moves almost effortlessly. In several instances, Levine would preemptively address Shelton's likely pitch, effectively neutralizing it before Shelton even had a chance to speak. For example, if Shelton was expected to emphasize his track record with country artists, Levine might acknowledge it up front and pivot to his own versatility as a coach. This kind of strategic foresight gave Levine a psychological edge. Contestants could see that he wasn't just reacting, he was controlling the narrative. Humor as a weapon. Perhaps the most distinctive aspect of Levine's approach was his use of humor. While many coaches rely on emotional appeals or technical critiques, Levine leaned heavily into comedic timing. His jokes weren't just for laughs, they were carefully crafted to undermine Shelton in subtle ways. A well-timed quip could shift the mood of the room, making Shelton's arguments seem less convincing or even predictable. At the same time, Levine's humor made him incredibly relatable. Contestants often felt more at ease with him, which made his pitches more persuasive. It's one thing to be impressed by a coach, it's another to feel genuinely comfortable with them. Levine's ability to balance humor and strategy became one of his greatest strengths. He wasn't just competing, he was entertaining, and in a show driven by audience engagement, that mattered. The evolution of their dynamic. What made this season particularly fascinating was how the Levine-Shelton dynamic had matured. While their rivalry remained intact, there was a noticeable sense of mutual respect. Levine no longer needed to prove himself in the same way he did during earlier seasons. Instead, he embraced the history he shared with Shelton, using it as a foundation rather than a crutch. Shelton, for his part, seemed equally aware of Levine's tactics. Their exchanges felt more like a high-level chess match than a simple back and forth. Each knew the other's strengths and weaknesses, which made every interaction more layered and engaging. This evolution added a new dimension to the show. It wasn't just about who could deliver the best pitch, it was about who could outthink the other in real time. Contestants caught in the crossfire. For contestants, the Levine-Shelton rivalry was both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, it meant receiving highly competitive pitches from two of the show's most experienced coaches. On the other hand, it often put them in the middle of a playful but intense battle. Levine used this to his advantage by framing the decision as an opportunity rather than a dilemma. He would emphasize that choosing him wasn't just about joining a team, it was about becoming part of a legacy. He often highlighted the success of past contestants from Team Adam, reinforcing the idea that he knew how to nurture talent. By contrast, he would playfully question Shelton's methods, suggesting that his approach might be less suited to certain artists. This contrast helped contestants see the decision more clearly, even as the rivalry added an extra layer of excitement. A masterclass in branding. Beyond the immediate competition, Levine's use of his history with Shelton was also a masterclass in personal branding. He understood that his identity on The Voice was closely tied to that rivalry, and he leaned into it fully. Rather than trying to reinvent himself, Levine doubled down on what made him memorable. He embraced the humor, the competitiveness, and the chemistry that fans had come to love. This consistency made his return feel both fresh and familiar. It was a reminder of why he had been such a central figure on the show for so many years. At the same time, Levine's strategic evolution showed that he wasn't simply repeating old patterns. He was building on them, refining his approach to fit the current landscape of the competition. The impact on the show. Levine's return, and his strategic use of his history with Shelton, had a noticeable impact on The Voice. The energy of the show felt revitalized, with the rivalry bringing an added sense of unpredictability. Viewers were drawn back into the dynamic that had defined some of the show's most memorable moments. Social media buzzed with reactions to Levine's jokes, Shelton's comebacks, and the ongoing battle for contestants. This renewed interest highlighted the importance of chemistry in a show like The Voice. While the talent of the contestants is always the focal point, The interactions between coaches play a crucial role in shaping the overall experience. More than just a rivalry. At its core, the Levine-Shelton dynamic is about more than just competition. It's about storytelling, connection, and the ability to engage an audience. Levine's decision to use his explosive history with Shelton to his advantage wasn't just a tactical move, it was a recognition of what makes The Voice unique. By embracing that history, Levine tapped into something that resonated with both contestants and viewers. He turned past moments into present opportunities, creating a narrative that felt both continuous and evolving. Looking ahead. As the season progresses, it will be fascinating to see how this dynamic continues to unfold. Will Shelton adapt to Levine's strategies? Will Levine find new ways to stay one step ahead? One thing is certain, the rivalry between Adam Levine and Blake Shelton remains one of the most compelling aspects of The Voice. And as long as both coaches are willing to push each other, the show will continue to benefit from their chemistry. In the end, Levine's explosive approach isn't just about winning, it's about making every moment count. Whether he's delivering a perfectly timed joke, outmaneuvering Shelton in a pitch, or connecting with a contestant on a deeper level, Levine proves that experience and strategy can go hand in hand. And for fans, that means one thing: the best is far from over.